What's up? I'm Rebecca. Um, if I seem extra grumpy or negative or cynical, it's because I'm PMSing and it's affecting my brain functioning, and I am. So, it's because you're right. It's because you're picking up on things. So, this is eczema lotion for my nose. If you can't tell, it's all pink. I get serious eczema on my nose. By the way, like seven to $9 at Walgreens. It might be more now because of artificial inflation for profit by big companies, but still should be pretty affordable. Definitely get it. Has colloidal oatmeal. Anyways, so God, I think it's the story of Job. I'll have the full story linked in the description. I don't love this story because often Christians act like sociopaths and they will. Okay, maybe that's a bit harsh. Christians will often act incredibly naively and unempathetically. That's more specific and correct. And they will portray this story as like a positive story, as like inspirational. And I view it as more of a tragedy with like a silver lining of God at the end, of God's faithfulness. But like, basically, God allows his faith to be tested by Satan, and because Satan's like, oh, he's only gonna have faith in you when times are good. And God's like, nah, he'll have faith in me in bad times too. And so Satan, like, kills his entire family and makes him lose everything in his life. And the silver lining, not a happy ending. The silver lining of that is that God gives him a new family, and it's like bigger or something, and like he gets twice as much stuff as he had before. Things are replaceable. Family members aren't. I don't care if like he got back a better wife with more kids. Like, that's still an entire family dead, unforgotten. So like, it always pissed me off when people would be like, oh, have you read this story? It's like super inspirational. And I'm like, no, it's not. Gross. That's the kind of thing that would keep me from God in the past, actually, was people portraying that story as inspirational instead of a tragedy with a silver lining. By the way, the Bible does not say, here's an inspirational story, here's an inspirational quote for your office wall. Like, the Bible doesn't say that. People be saying that. Just to be clear, that story's in there to show you that of like God's faithfulness and how important and crucial it is to have faith in God when times get hard. So like, I understand that God allows bad things to happen. I understand that he allows like sometimes you need to be uncomfortable to grow, right? Like, I was struggling with codependency, and I mean, it's something I still struggle with technically, but I honestly don't feel like it's my biggest issue anymore these days. I feel like being separated from my husband really kind of helped solve that, but at the same time, like, it was really bad for my relationship with God. Like, yes, I maintained faith, but I feel like, and I should give myself credit, because I feel like there's also like a negative voice in my head that's like, oh, it takes no effort to maintain faith. That's not true. That's not true. Plenty of people lose faith in hard times. For me, personally, it feels like I could never go back. So, like, it just feels like, okay, like, I maintained faith, cool, like, I already knew that I would, like, I guess I just don't feel that, like, proud or, like, much was achieved. I do feel like I grew a lot in my, learning to, like, deal with mental illnesses and disabilities and stuff, but my relationship with God really suffered. I'm actually getting emotional. I didn't think I would, like, start crying talking about this, but, like, all the temptation of sin while being separated from my husband, wow, jeez, hold on, jeez, just all the temptation to sin was really exhausting, especially because, like, I wasn't blessed to grow up Christian. Like, no one ever taught me who Jesus was, who God was. No one ever shared the gospel in detail with me. Like, I was told to repeat, like, the prayer, the Lord's Prayer or whatever, like, before I go to bed, like some sort of witchcraft ritual, because I was raised Catholic, loosely, if anything. And we all know how ungodly Catholicism is. So, like, I didn't have any framework. Like, I spent my entire life before becoming a Christian just living in sin, living for myself, living for my own ungodly desires. Sometimes they were godly, but a lot of times they weren't. And, you know, I really embraced my role as a wife, and I really embraced my husband, as my spiritual head. And I didn't realize how much I had embraced that, because, like, I can be really argumentative. And so I think sometimes people don't see what's really going on inside of me. That's why I've been trying to be more honest, because, like, I feel like my husband doesn't even realize still. Maybe I'm wrong. It's not, we've talked about it in detail, but I feel like even he doesn't really understand just how much room in my heart and in my relationship with God I made for him. Like, I saw God's order for things. I saw the goodness in it. I saw the way he wanted things. A husband as the spiritual head of the wife. And yes, I would argue with him, and yes, I have trust issues, and I didn't always trust my husband when I definitely should have. And that's an issue that was solved by us being separated, to be fair, but like, losing the person who shared God with me first, who helped bring me to Christ, and gosh, I'm really trying to stop crying, you guys. I really did not think I was going to be crying. Jeez. But losing that person, losing, like, one of the only people who understands my relationship with God, who understands how I feel about my mom, not just in a worldly way, but in a religious, spiritual way. Like, no one knows me quite like my husband does. And it was just really hard losing him for those 3 months, because my relationship with God really deeply suffered without my spiritual head. I need my own individual relationship with God, and that's what this time apart also allowed me to remember. God comes first before my husband, but at the same time, my husband is a really godly man. Like, he has incredible spiritual gifts that God has been gracious enough to bless him with, and he's been gracious enough to bless us with literal, undeniable proof that they're real and true. Like, it's actually, like, supernatural, like, crazy stuff, and when you're lucky enough to have a good husband like that, who loves God like that, who obeys God like that, who has spiritual gifts like that, who's so much further established in God, who has deeper roots in God, while I still feel kind of like a baby Christian sometimes. It's just really hard losing that. I'm sorry for crying. I'm trying to stop, but just the more I talk about it, the more I want to cry. Especially because I'm PMSing. It doesn't help that I'm, like, so emotional. Oh my goodness. And now I'm just trying to repair my relationship with God. And we're gonna get there. I really feel him saying to me right now that we're gonna get there. Fist bump, Jesus. I trust him. And he says we're gonna get there. That's all I need to know at this point. I'm finally past the point of just, like, doubting everything God says. Like, he's proved himself so many times. He proved himself on college. He proved himself with Garrett countless times. He proved himself in just a million different ways already. I'm finally past the point in our relationship where I was just doubting his promises all the time. I'm finally repairing my trust issues within myself and within him. And because that's where my trust issues come from not trusting myself, actually. And if you can't trust yourself, how are you going to trust anybody else, you know what I mean? So, it was really hard being separated from my husband, but by the grace of God, I have him back now. and I can already feel our relationship, mine and God's, I mean, and mine and my partner's, but I mean mine and God's, like, I can already feel it being repaired just by having my husband in my life, because, like it or not, I am a wife, I am married, and God has a specific role for a husband in a wife's life, and that is the spiritual head, and my husband is crucial to my relationship with God now as a married woman, and I'm just really grateful to have him back. You know, last night I was really frustrated and not like open to positive stuff, but I was able to share that with him honestly, and I think as graciously as I could muster in the moment. I don't feel like I was being mean or anything. I was just really negative. I was like, I know I'm being so negative. I'm sorry. And he was gracious back, and he was just like, you know, I'm gonna let you have time alone with you and God, and he sent me a bunch of videos, and I was feeling really like a lot of resistance in my heart to it. And then I saved the last video for this morning. I started my day off so good by watching that video, and it was a great message, and the weight that was like kind of keeping my heart closed off, I'm still PMSing, I'm still a little irritable and stressed, but that weight was gone, and my heart was so open to that message, and yeah, that's it really. I'm just really grateful that I stick by God and that I have my husband back, and I feel like my relationship with God is like the system I have in place to maintaining and growing that relationship is back, and you know, I'm just gonna repent for the sinning that I did while we were apart, and you know, continue to repent for all the sins that I'm inevitably gonna do in the future, and I'm just gonna keep sticking by God and stick by my husband. I feel like I trust him more than I ever have in our entire relationship, and I'm really excited to see what God has in store. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed watching me cry and PMS. Oh, there's birdies coming to eat from my feeder. Okay, I'm gonna go watch the birds. God bless you. Love you. Goodbye. Mwah.